It is true that I have been called a variety of names, and an enormous variety of labels have been hung on me, most of them negative. I can hardly think of any taboo sin that hasn't been attributed to me. That is a sign that I've been performing my role. The very fact that people want to call me something, is of interest. And the fact that there are varieties of epithets shows that there's some electricity there and there's emotion there. See, I don't know, I cannot define what my role is. I'm a psychologist. I'm a linguistic psychologist. I'm interested in language and communication. And I'm basically a communication philosopher. I feel that the more people who understand what we have been doing, and by we I mean the thousands of people that have been involved in this enterprise of creating the cybernetic free agent society of the future, people who understand this, and once you understand it, you get it. And you don't have to join anything. You just have to be a free agent yourself. It's all in your own minds. There's nothing to sign up for. There's nothing to buy. There's nothing to join. Matter of fact, it's the other way around. Drop out. Declare your own independence. Write your own declaration of independence. Declare your own free agency, like the more courageous athletes and stars have done. Because it's all discover and celebrate your singularity. Now, the paradox here is that the moralists who control the gene pools and don't want people to change will tell you, you can't think for yourself. That's anarchy. You can't just go off on your own and create your own world, because that's insanity. It's selfishness. There's no concern. That's not true. We learn from a jazz musician that, first of all, you have to be able to improvise, and every note you play is new, fresh, improvised. But the guy on piano, the girl on drums, is listening, and she's improvising. Suddenly, 3, 4, 5 of you are improvising. The Grateful Dead are a wonderful example of that. The Grateful Dead can go on for 2 hours playing one song, and they'll never repeat any lengthy sequence that they've done before. That is a profound, perhaps the most profound philosophic concept for the 21st century, that you can only harmonize with others if you know how to improvise. And if you can't innovate, if you can't improvise yourself, then you're always locked to the symphonic score, or you're following the director. It's one of those wonderful paradoxes that only the totally free individual can become an intelligent and a really productive member of a collectivity or a group. Go where they are. There's no excuse. Einstein's not going to knock on your door at midnight. Go where Einstein is. The person I would like most to meet in the world is Thomas Pynchon, who wrote an incredible epic encyclopedic book, Gravity's Rainbow. And he has given us an extraordinary Zen lesson in celebrity. He's invisible and hasn't been around, seen publicly or commented publicly. In this age of Andy Warhol fame, he has stood out as an extraordinary enigma, and I would love to meet him.
What about Mark Twain?
Well, Mark Twain is, they've done, and it kind of bothers me in a way, because the gene pool custodians, people who run the American knowledge establishment, don't want us to know who Mark Twain was, because he was an enthusiastic advocate of drugs. He discovered cocaine, basically. He was the first American to discover cocaine, and he turned U.S. Grant, ex-President Grant, onto cocaine when the old man was having trouble writing his book. He wrote many books of lurid, explicit glorification of sex, which the average cool person never hears of. He was a bitter, sometimes despairing critic of American imperialism. He stood up against the Spanish War and the imperial adventures of the time. He represents almost everything we would say is free and wonderful and creative of the 60s and 70s, but you never know that. I mean, you have to dig through, and maybe they'll be saying the same thing about me, if anything, or maybe Bob Dylan, this is some nice Boy Scout marching songs back then. Yeah. These are lessons, instructive lessons for us we have to learn how the game is played. And by the way, the people who run the gene pools and want to keep things from changing, have every right to do that. It's their right to create their own realities and to create their own myths and their heroes. And it's our right, of course, and it's our really duty to dig through the propaganda and the hype and the disinformation. And it becomes very thrilling, because then you realize that we're not alone. The finest minds of the past have been the same trouble we've been in. And Huckleberry Finn, of course, is the classic stories of 2 free agents who go down the river. At the end, they head out to the territories. Mark Twain also was the first word processor, was the first manuscript, bookman ever delivered typewritten. So he was right there, just as my own interest now in home computing. I have a picture on the wall of Mark Twain. You probably saw it. He lost a bundle of his hard-earned cash investing in home word processing and printing, home publishing. The man was extraordinary.
Blackstone Audiobooks presents Coops, the new audio novel to take artist to Baer.
Before and every place, Dottaville, like everywhere else, woke for the exception. American rules become one big shopping mall where anyone might be the regular place. Dottaville, off the map. Anyone. All sales start finding this. Dottaville.